The sun dips below the Wyoming horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The air buzzes with the electric hum of the summer night at the county fair. Laughter spills from the Ferris wheel as it spins, its lights twinkling against the dusk. The scent of cotton candy and fried dough mingles with the dust kicked up by the boots on the midway. Kids clutch balloons. Couples share shy glances, and the rodeo crowd roars from the grandstand, cheering for the next bull rider. It's a night of freedom, a slice of small-town magic where worries fade under the carnival's glow. But in the shadows, beyond the glow of the neon lights, a figure moves. He's unassuming, blending into the crowd, a man in his 40s, maybe a carny working the rides or a trucker passing through. His name is Royal Russell Long, a drifter with a charming smile and a darkness that festers beneath. He's no stranger to these fairgrounds, these rodeos, these fleeting moments of joy. To him, they're hunting grounds. Tonight, someone will catch his eye. A young woman, a girl, someone who strays just a step too far from the light. And in that moment, the fair's magic will turn to menace, leaving only questions that linger for decades. Welcome to Dark Dialogue. Tonight, we step into the shadows of Wyoming's fairgrounds to unravel the mysteries tied to Royal Russell Long, a man suspected of shattering lives all across the West. Join us as we explore the cases that haunt us, searching for answers in the dust of those long ago nights. How's it going tonight, Angela?
It's doing pretty well. How are you?
Good. How's work?
Work is good.
Yeah?
Yeah, work's good.
Ready for the weekend?
Very.
I bet. Are you ever not ready for the weekend?
Yes. There have been occasions.
Really?
Yeah.
And you have a lot to do on the weekends?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess tomorrow we're going to map out a route for some coworkers for Yellowstone. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I might be off the grid a little bit tomorrow.
Well, that's what weekends are for.
But I will be passenger princess crochet time, and I cannot wait.
Well, perfect. I will be busy researching next cases.
I will feel bad a couple of times, and I'll check in with you when I have.
You shouldn't feel
Service.
bad. That's the deal we made.
I know, but I just show up and smart-ass comments, and you're in here.
You
just
make it entertaining.
Yeah, I try.
So, are you ready to jump into this bit of Wyoming chaos?
Yeah, home state.
Yeah.
All right, go Cowboys. Let's do this.
Whoever knew that it was as dark as we're going to find it to be tonight.
I knew it. I just didn't want to know it.
Yeah. So, welcome listeners to Dark Dialogue, the podcast where we unravel the shadows of the human mind and dive deep into the mysteries that haunt small towns and big cities alike. I'm your host, John.
And I'm your host, Angela. And alongside John, we're here to explore the stories that keep you up at night, the tales of mystery, betrayal, and the kind of truth that is stranger than fiction.
Each episode, we dive deep into the cases that haunt us, the mysteries that linger, and the questions that refuse to fade, giving voice to those left forever voiceless.
So as always, grab your headphones, pour a stiff drink or a glass of wine, dim the lights, and join us for a conversation that's as gripping as it is unsettling. This is Dark Dialogue, and let's step into the darkness together.
So before we get cranked off, this one's going to be a little bit different than I originally planned.
All right.
So
I'm a little scared.
So, we had originally said that as we work through this Rocky Mountain Reckoning season, that no matter what, each victim is going to get their own episode and their own stories, right?
Right.
And I really came to that decision when I dug into the Jane Does, because I thought, gosh, there's going to be the least amount of information on the Jane Does.
Right.
And so when I dug into the Jane Does in planning the season, I found that I had plenty of information to make a full episode for each one of the Jane Does. And so I said, okay, well, we'll just give everybody their own episode. And so that's what we've been doing. And then I started to dig into some of the named victims where I can literally find a paragraph.
Right.
That's it. And so it was very surprising to me to find that I didn't have enough information on the named victims to come up with an episode of any length.
It seems very backwards, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? More than, 10 minutes, maybe, that I could talk about a couple of these victims, which is unbelievably sad. And then the other thing happened after I had the entire season planned. I stumbled upon a whole new cluster of dead girls and women. And so, in battling, trying to figure out how to do all this and deal with it, and I decided, I thought about, well, we'll just save it for maybe a dark dialogue episode or something like that, but it doesn't seem right and it doesn't seem fair because it fits into the same time period and the same areas that we're talking about this season. And so I just made the decision that we're going to do this episode, which is going to deal with multiple victims where we have very little information. And I don't believe that I could make a full episode on any one of these, as sad as that is.
It is.
And when we get really going through that, you're going to be amazed, first of all, at the number of victims that we have to talk about. And second of all, at the lack of information on any of them.
Right.
So, so that's the decision that I made. It is what it is.
I stand behind you for that. I know you wanted to give them all their own, but you're still telling their story and other people wouldn't. So,
well, I can say that, for the vast majority of these cases, now there are a couple that have been covered on other podcasts, but there's a couple that have never had a podcast about them ever, and probably never will, because there's not enough information to do a podcast.
Right.
And so I think they deserve to have their stories told too. And so if that means we have to lump a couple of them together in order to be able to tell their stories, I think it's worth it.
I fully support that.
So anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way and kind of explain how things changed and why things changed a little bit. But with that, I think you dug up some location information for us.
We're back to me digging up some locations.
And we didn't have to travel too far for one of these ones. So
not really.
You want to tell us about the first place we're headed to tonight?
I will. The first place we're going to explore is Rawlins, Wyoming. Originally Rawlins Springs, and it was founded in 1868 with the arrival of the railroad and named by Granville M. Dodge after General John A. Rawlins, who visited the area on a tour of the West in 1867. Within 2 years, there was a population of 574 people, including 81 members of the military assigned to Fort Rawlins. It was incorporated as a municipality in 1886. So I think the first thing most Wyomingites think when they hear Rawlins is the Wyoming State Penitentiary.
They do.
That's what I'm about to say. Being a self-proclaimed prison touring junkie, I'm sure John does.
Absolutely. And I've been there several times.
Yeah, you're taking me next time.
Okay.
So the Wyoming State Penitentiary is a historic and current prison in Rawlins, operating under different, quote, names for over 120 years. The Frontier Prison from 1901 to 1980, the North Facility from 1981 to 2001, and the South Facility, opened in 2001, now has a capacity for 750 inmates from the information that I found.
Yeah, and it's quite a ways from the original prison.
Yeah.
Like the new prison is quite a ways out of town. You can't even see it.
Mm-hmm.
It sets quite a ways off the interstate. And so the old prison is like freaking right downtown.
Yeah, like here I am.
Yeah, like the old
Sort of.
prisons used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the Wyoming State Penitentiary is also the location of Wyoming's death row for men and execution chamber.
Which means nothing in the state of Wyoming.
Right, which is located in the prison's parole board meeting room. Sounds odd.
Right.
But, okay. No death sentences have been carried out in Wyoming since the 1992 execution of convicted murderer Mark Hopkinson. And in 2018, there were no inmates on death row.
Unfortunately.
We know how John feels. As John stated earlier, since we're doing things a little differently in this episode, he's asked me to write the censuses? Censi? Can we go back to the octopus question?
Censuses.
Censuses?
I think it would be.
Regarding this episode. So I will tell you not only the first recorded census records, but also the nearest ones to the date of the crimes and the closest estimate for the present time now.
And just to explain, the reason that I wanted to do that is because we're going back a long ways,
Mm-hmm.
And so the populations have changed considerably from the 70s and early 80s to now. And so...
Oh, how I hate saying the 70s is a long ways.
Tell me about it. I know.
Weird.
But it was.
All right, on that note, the 1870 census for Rawlins reported 612 people. And for this particular one, we are discussing 1974. So I felt it necessary to give the window between 1970 and 1980 because they don't do every year. 1970 was reported as 7,855 people, and 1980 was reported as nearly double that, 11,547.
Wow.
Residents, with a 2025 estimate of back down to 7,968.
Yeah, so it was like probably a oil boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the most interesting notable people, because I like to try to find them, I decided to report on regarding Rawlins is Big Nose George, who was a Wild West outlaw hanged by a lynch mob there, and their first female doctor, Lillian Heath, was actually given the cap of his skull at his autopsy.
Yeah, and I'll have pictures of it on the video of this, but there's pictures of it in his shoes. It's pretty freaking weird.
Interesting, though. I mean,
yeah.
Here you go, Doc. But, okay, so beyond that, my fun fact for Rawlins is something known as Rawlins Red, which is a red pigment containing hematite. Have you heard of Rawlins Red?
I have not, actually.
It's an oxide of iron that was mined near Rawlins, and paint containing Rawlins Red has anti-rust properties and is thought to have been used as the original paint on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Wow, that's pretty freaking cool.
That's why I chose that fun fact, because I was like, that's interesting for Wyoming too, the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, that's pretty freaking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got that red dirt all over Wyoming.
And Utah, yeah.
That's a different variety of it?
Yeah,
or something,
it's hematite, an oxide of iron that was mined near Rawlins.
Wow. Okay. Well, with that, we're going to dump into...
some sad things.
We're going to jump into an extraordinarily sad tale that we have to go through tonight to tell these stories. This was a tough one to research for reasons that'll become clear as we go through this. But so the first young lady that we're going to talk about tonight is a girl by the name of Carlene Brown. Carlene was born January 14th, 1955, which makes her 19 years old at 1974 at the setting of the story. And she was from Rawlins. She's described as being between 5 foot and 5'3" and between 100 and 120 pounds. So she's a little girl, she's not very big at all. She had red or auburn hair. Her eyes were brown, and she had some surgical scars on her big toes on both feet, and is said to have had freckles. And her fingerprints or dental records are available, and I couldn't find whether her fingerprints or her DNA are available. So I don't know if we have her DNA. But Carla was adopted. She was adopted by Carl and Kathleen Brown, and they at some point had gotten a divorce, and Catherine moved. Did I say Kathleen?
I think so.
Yeah, it's Carl
I
and
forgive you.
Catherine, but Catherine moved to Colorado after they had gotten a divorce, and she passed away in 1990. And Carla stayed in Rawlins with her dad, Carl, and he passed in 1995. And then there was also a brother by the name of Rick Brown, and he is deceased, and he lived in Laramie, Wyoming. And we don't know a thing about her biological family, which really complicates the whole DNA question of this case, because, typically we could go to a parent, but she's adopted. So,
yeah,
that's not an option.
And there's no records. I mean, I know it's old, but
unfortunately, I don't even know. I mean, unless they would have preserved a hairbrush or something. You mean as far as adoptive records? Yeah, we don't know a thing.
Okay.
And, it wouldn't be that surprising. I mean, she was born in 55, so I mean, there was a lot of adoptions that without records at that time.
Yeah,
so.
Just backdoor baby brokers.
Yeah, and adoptions back then just weren't handled the same way. There wasn't a lot of paperwork. A lot of adoptions were handled instead of really being handled through the state or anything, were handled through like adoption agencies or like religious organizations, churches and stuff like that. So I mean, it kind of was a case of, you want a baby, go pick one out and take them home. I mean, it wasn't quite that bad, but
close.
Pretty damn close. So we do know that she graduated from Rawlins High School in 1973 and was active in sports and extracurricular activities, which, indicate that she had a vibrant social life. And then after her graduation, she worked at Model Cleaners in Rawlins. And have you been to Rawlins?
I've been through it, and I don't remember if I was awake or not.
Yeah, I mean, forgive me, all my Wyoming brothers and sisters, but I hate Rawlins. It is one of like 2 towns in this state that I will almost drive clear into another state to avoid. I don't know what it is either. I don't know what it is about Rawlins, but it's just never been a favorite place.
Our family's that way with Rock Springs.
That's the second one.
And people forgive me for that, but we will go around it's not as far out of the way, but out of the way just to not go through Rock Springs.
Well, and there is a bit of reality here, and that is that Rock Springs, Rawlins, and Casper are, as far as Wyoming goes, they're some of the roughest communities that we have. I mean, historically, they've changed a lot. I mean, they're way different in 2025 than they were in 1970 or 1980, but especially in these time periods. And when I was growing up, they were rough towns. And I lived in Casper, and we could talk about it when we get to the Casper part, but I've had a few instances where I was afraid for my life in Casper. It's still a relatively rough place. So, and And, if you doubt me, just look at like the murder rates and the disappeared rates and where they cluster. And it is kind of, these towns have a lot to do to adding to our missing and murdered rates. That's all I'll say.
For now, that's all he'll say.
For now, yes. So, but anyway, she was a local teen, and Rollins is a relatively small town. Even in 74, it was a relatively small town. And compared to other places in this country, I mean, in Wyoming, it's one of our larger cities, but compared to other places, it's pretty damn small.
Right.
So, she had a friend that came down to visit her for the 4th of July in 1974. And that friend's name was Christine Ann Gross, and she went by Christy. And so Christy was born January 3rd, 1955, which made her also 19 in 1974 when the story's taken place. She was from Bowdle, South Dakota, and I had never even heard of Bowdle, South Dakota.
I was just about to give you a look.
But it is just a little rinky-dink little like kind of farming town up in South Dakota. And so Christy was 5'2", and she weighed about 100 to 120 pounds. So they're both about the same size, pretty small girls. And she had dark brown hair that was parted in the middle, which was so customary for 70s. The long hair parted down the middle. She has a very traditional kind of 70s look, She was a little bit more dark complected than Christy. And
Caroline.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Too many C's. There's a lot of
C's. And unfortunately, we don't know anything about her dental records, her fingerprints, or if her DNA is available. We don't have a lot of family details on her other than she grew up in Bowdle, probably with her family up there. She likely graduated high school the same time that Carla would have graduated. We don't know about her employment or anything at the time. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that she had traveled from South Dakota, and this happened clear down in Wyoming. And so everything I could find deals with the Wyoming side of things and doesn't really go into her detail. And, I mean, when you're researching these cases and you're looking at historical newspapers, and unfortunately 1974 is historical.
So it ain't so.
Now you pick up a newspaper and you'll have an entire page dedicated to story, and then it'll say continued on page whatever. But in like the 70s, the 80s, and then definitely before that, you get like a paragraph and then it's the next story.
Well,
and so the newspapers basically gave you the headlines, and that was all you can get out of it. And so it does make it a little bit hard. But what we do know is that she went down to spend some time with her friend. I don't know exactly how these two became friends, how they met each other. I really don't know, but they apparently were pretty good friends, and she went down to spend the 4th of July with her friend in Rollins. And so they were going to go to the rodeo and just have a good 4th of July. It's July 4th, 1974, Rollins, Wyoming, where the summer sun lingers over a dusty horizon, casting golden light across the Carbon County Fairgrounds. The Little Britches Rodeo is alive with the roar of the crowd, the crackle of fireworks, sparkling early in the twilight, and the sweet scent of hay and popcorn drifting through the air. In this town of around 8,000, the fairgrounds are a heartbeat, drawing families, teens, and travelers for a night of freedom and celebration. But in the shadows of the midway, a figure watches, unnoticed. His presence is stained on the festive glow. Tonight, we step into this fleeting moment to unearth the truths buried in the dust, chasing justice through the echoes of the night. So, like I said, it's July 4th, 1974, and it's in the evening, and these two girls decide that they're going to head to the Little Britches Rodeo. And so for those that are not familiar, the Little Britches Rodeo is a rodeo for kids. I can't remember the exact ages, but it's like from ages 5 to 18, I think, or something like that. So, we're not talking about like the professional rodeo cowboys. We're talking about kids. So we're talking events like, for the older kids, those that are 17, 18 years old, there might be some bull riding, but we're really talking about steer riding, mutton busting, which is, riding sheep, if you don't know what that is.
I was just about to ask, did you see the look on my face?
Have you never seen mutton busting?
No, I've never heard of it.
It's the cutest damn thing you ever seen. So you're talking little kids, like 4 years old or whatever, just clinging on the back of a sheep that just comes out running. They don't, they just go running across the arena. Goat roping, where they'll have a goat that's kind of tied down in the middle of the arena, and the little kid has to run out on his horse and jump off and tie it. And
that sounds adorable.
It's pretty damn cute. They're a lot of fun. They're not, for the little guys, there's a little bit of competition between themselves or whatever, but it's really just a fun thing for the kids to do, and it introduces them to the sport of rodeo. And then, obviously there's barrel racing like there always is, and pole bending, and breakaway roping, which if you don't know what that is, that's where you rope, but the rope breaks away from the saddle.
I do know that. So for the heck of it, I looked up the ages for you.
Thank you.
Just to have a little bit more information.
And it is?
Little Wranglers are ages 5 through 8, juniors 9 through 13, and seniors 14 to 18.
Okay. And it started like back in the 50s or something like that, and it's still going strong. I mean, they have like their own TV channel or something I saw now. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty big.
Yeah. There's 2025 National Little Britches Finals Rodeo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. So on July 4th, 1974, that was going to be held at the Carbon County Fairgrounds. And Carla and Christine decided that they were going to go. And so they went, and they were never seen again. And so we don't really know. I'm sure that they were noticed missing that evening, but like I said, these stories lack so much information that it's really hard to tell. So a lot of this is guesswork. I did see it reported that Carla was living with her dad still, so I'm assuming they were headed back to his place. So I'm guessing that he might have noticed that they didn't come home, but I can't say that for sure because we're talking about two 19-year-old girls. We're not talking about two 12-year-old girls. So it's very possible, and this would not be a mark against dad if he didn't notice that they didn't come home until the next day.
Yeah.
He got out. Maybe they would plan to be out till midnight, and he went to bed at 8 o'clock. I don't know. But we're guessing that they were probably reported as missing either late on the 4th of July or early on the 5th. And honestly, my guess is probably on the 5th. And I just say that because it is the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot of parents that are going to run out and report their 19-year-old kid missing if they're not home on the 4th of July, but I can't say. And then there's some really weird shit when it comes to their car, because in multiple places, it says that their car was found in Worland. And for those that don't know, that's like all the way across the freaking state.
Yeah.
Rollins.
That's quite a ways away.
That's all the way across the state away, literally.
Yeah.
North to south. Rollins is about as far on the southern side of the state as you can get. Not quite, but It's right on I-80, which runs clear across the bottom part of the state. And then Worland is up in the Bighorn Basin, not far from Montana. So you're talking Rawlins near Colorado, Worland near Montana. So it's a hell of a long ways away.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So I don't believe that that is the case. I don't think that that's true, but because I saw it reported that it was found at the fairgrounds, and then I found it reported that it was found in Worland, and I found both reports in multiple different places. So it's not like I could say, oh, this is an outlier. There's only one report saying it was in Worland, all the rest. No, there's like almost equal numbers saying Worland and saying the fairgrounds, but I find it impossible to believe, nearly impossible to believe that it was found in Worland.
How long after did you say? And I missed it?
It was not reported when the car was found.
Okay.
And no personal belongings were reported to be found either. So, I mean, I can't say for certain, but I believe the car was probably found in the fairgrounds parking lot.
Okay.
And I'll explain why I feel that way here in just a second. So, okay, so Christy Gross's body was discovered on October 27th, 1983, 3 miles south of Sinclair, Wyoming, which is only about 7 miles from Rawlins. And it was found in a remote area off of I-80. So, do you know Sinclair?
No.
Well, you're not missing much. So, I mean,
we're really gonna upset some of our Wyoming people.
Well, no, and I can explain exactly why I say that. And I mean, there is a little town there, but essentially, Earl Holding created Little America hotels, which I don't know if you've seen Little America. So he created that, made his money, and then he started Sinclair Oil, and they built their first refinery in Sinclair, Wyoming. That's why it's called Sinclair.
Hence the name, yeah.
And so that's pretty much what's there is a huge oil refinery. Okay. And then there's a little town where a few of the people that work at the refinery live, but you're really kind of missing a refinery.
Gotcha.
Essentially. And so, but keep in mind, she disappeared in 1974. Her body was found in 1983. So by the time it was found, it was just skeletal remains, and they were able to use dental records in order to figure out who she was.
Okay.
Now, because of that, we know that they were taken from the fairgrounds, and her body was dumped in Sinclair, which is, like I said, I mean, she was 3 miles south of Sinclair, so she was roughly 10 miles from Rawlins in completely the opposite direction of Worland.
Right.
Because of that, that's where I really lean against the car being found in Worland. And it's weird that a fact like that we're left wondering about.
Yeah, how does Worland just get randomly tossed into the hat here?
How do we not know for a fact where the car was found?
That's true too.
This is the frustrating part of these cases. Now you're beginning to see why it is exactly that we're tying all these cases together, because we can't even determine where the freaking car was found. I mean, that's kind of nuts. But because I saw it reported both places, the most logical place is the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
If it was found in Worland, I'm just wrong. I don't know. But anyway, it was determined that she was killed by homicide by 2 heavy blows to the skull, likely with a blunt object, and there were indications of a violent sexual assault. So unfortunately, it's, 1974, she disappeared. 1983, she's found. We don't have any DNA technology at that time. there's absolutely no clothing or personal items noted. So we don't really know if she was found with anything or whatever.
Right.
Or, the condition of the body would have been pretty much just skeletal at that time for sure. And then it is a very remote location.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying it's only 3 miles south of Sinclair, but Sinclair doesn't really count. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like, it's like I said, it's like being 3 miles away from an oil refinery that sits in the freaking middle of nowhere. And if you
kind of like a neighborhood around a refinery is what I'm gathering, as less than a town, just a neighborhood.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even call it a neighborhood. Sinclair is a podunk little spot.
Okay.
And so if you've driven across I-80, once you leave if you've driven across Wyoming, screw I-80. If you've driven across any place in Wyoming, when you leave a town, you're remote.
It's a lot of the time of nothingness.
Within 15 minutes, you are remote. And I would say pretty much every town in the state of Wyoming, if you drive 15 minutes out of town, you're remote.
Yeah.
And
I know I've said this before, and I know other states do it too, but Wyoming is definitely not, well, how many miles is it? It's how many minutes, how many hours is it to get there?
Exactly.
So.
Yep. And so the Carbon County Sheriff's Office would have led the initial search, and the case went cold relatively quickly in 74. There just really was no indication of what happened to these girls. They just disappeared. And then with the discovery of the body in 83, it just kind of, I wouldn't say the case warmed up at all. They weren't able to garner any new leads or any new information. They just found one of the bodies, but they never were able to make any arrest, or they never even named any suspects. And obviously those delays have just decimated the case. And then again, like the other cases that we've covered within this same time period, I had planned to jump out of the 70s this week into the 80s, and then I came across these cases, and I already explained all that, but we're still in 1974. So we jumped up to 1980 for Tammy Terrell, and now we're backing back down to 74. But, other than Tammy, all the victims that we've covered so far have been 72, 74. That was a really bad year in this area, in this Great Basin area. It was a bad year.
Yeah.
And we're only talking about a few of them this season.
Just to throw it out there for you, since I am a little bit more free in this episode.
Yep.
Sinclair, Wyoming's website shows that they have a population of 450 people right now.
Yeah, that's about right. And it actually, that was probably about the same, because it probably went right with Rollins. Yeah. So maybe Sinclair jumped up to like 600 or 700 in 1980 and then went back down for now.
There is a 2-paragraph explanation of Sinclair on their website. That's it.
Do you want to tell us about it?
Welcome to the official site for beautiful, peaceful, and centrally located Sinclair, Wyoming, the oasis in the desert. We hope you found the information we have provided useful and beneficial, and you enjoy our website. We are conveniently located between the mountains and desert on Interstate 80, 6 miles east of Rollins, Wyoming. As for local statistics and climate, Sinclair has a population of 450 people. It is located at an elevation of 6,592 feet. The town comprises an area of approximately 1 square mile. It has a semi-arid and low relative humidity climate. Sinclair is a gateway to rich history and several recreational areas, including historic Sinclair, Parco Sinclair Museum, Seminole State Park, Sinclair Golf Club, and recreational parks.
Well, there you have it.
Short and sweet.
So it's tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, probably 425 of the residents work at the refinery. I'm not even joking.
And the other 25 are selling the food to get through life.
There's some ranching down there for sure, and there's some oil drilling and stuff like that. But by far the biggest economy in Sinclair and really across that whole part of the state until you get to the other end of the state, which we'll be visiting a little later in this episode where we get into some soda ash mining. But the vast majority of really Wyoming outside of farming and ranching is oil.
Yeah.
Or mining. So, and that area down there is no difference. Was that a badump ball?
It was.
Okay.
Or mining.
Yes. But I think it's important to talk about so we have very clear indications of the manner of death in this case, unlike some of them that we've covered this season so far. This poor girl was bashed in the head and then left out there. And
disgusting.
Yeah. And really in the middle of nowhere, which I can't say that that's indicative that somebody knew the area necessarily, but it kind of indicates it because she wasn't found off of the interstate. She was found like 3 miles south of Sinclair. Mm-hmm. So it was off a road down off of there. So, but it was 9 years from the time she went missing to the time that she was discovered. So, even now, that's a long stretch to be able to get any kind of viable DNA or anything. If a body that's laying out in the Wyoming winters and summers.
Do you think it was laying there the whole 9 years?
I'm pretty positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. I read nothing. It seems almost certain that she was probably killed the same night that she was taken, if I was going to guess.
Okay.
Or very soon thereafter.
Within days.
Yeah. Yep. And then we have Carlene, but Carlene's never been found. She's still missing.
Wow.
Obviously, we presume that she died in the same way that Christine did and probably around the same time. But without her body, we have absolutely nothing to go on. Nothing. So her dental records are available. So if remains are ever found, potentially, if we found, if we were able to find her skull and could do dental comparisons, then potentially we could identify her that way. But again, because she was adopted, as far as I could tell, there's no DNA on file for her. So it's going to be a tough one. It really is. And we're this far out. So we're 51 years now without her body. So the chances of recovering all of it are almost none.
Yeah.
If we found anything, it would be probably some bones. I doubt we're going to find a whole body. So if we lucked out and were able to find the skull with enough teeth left in it that we could do dental comparisons, it could be ID'd that way, but it's just extraordinarily sad. And then, obviously the Carbon County Sheriff's Office ran the investigation into both of their cases, but it has gone absolutely nowhere, and like so many of these cases that we talk about, especially in this time period, we had small police forces. And Wyoming still does. I don't know. I didn't look into the size of the force of the Carbon County Sheriff's Office now, but it's probably pretty similar to the Park County Sheriff's Office right here. We just don't have large, huge police forces because we just don't have that many people. There's just, There's very few people in the entire state. So, but there was absolutely no witnesses that ever came forward. There's nothing as far as really leads to follow into this case. It's worth noting, though, that dual disappearances are pretty freaking rare. It's an extraordinarily bold crime. Typically, when we're talking about predators, they're taking single women. 9 times out of 10, it's women. I'm not saying that men don't fall prey to predators, but statistically, it's women. And the ones that take 2 at a time are very rare.
It's a little ballsy.
Now, some of the serial killers have murdered 2 women in one night, like Bundy did too. I mean, there's been several that have killed 2 women in one night, but it's rare that they kidnap them together and kill them together. Ed Kemper did, but it's unusual, So you're talking about a pretty bold predator that would take 2 essentially grown women. I mean, they're kids, they're teenagers, but they're 19 years old. They're grown women, and not saying like they're big or anything like that. They were both pretty small girls, but they're sharp. They're 19 years old. We're not talking about 2 10-year-olds that are much easier to keep control of.
Candy,
exactly. Yeah. So it was a pretty damn bold crime, and then again, we're dealing with Rawlins, Wyoming, and I did say that there traditionally has been a lot of crime in that area, but it's still very rare. Like, murders are rare in pretty much every place in Wyoming in comparison to other larger places, And
we'd like to keep it that way.
Absolutely, we would. So we're not talking about we're not talking about an area where you have multiple murders, where people are investigating, where we have a large investigative force that is really accustomed to investigating murders. It's just not the case. And so we have a small police force, probably not that experienced. And then we have a double kidnapping and almost certainly double murder. And then it just gets worse, because 1 month later, on August 4th, a girl by the name of Deborah Ray Mayer, who was visiting from Red Lodge, Montana. And so she was only 15 years old.
Aww.
And she was down there visiting family from Red Lodge. And, for those of you that don't know, Red Lodge is a really kind of cool little mountain town.
I love it.
And it's, it's it's very, very close to Wyoming, in the northeast or the northwest corner of Wyoming. And it's a ski area. A lot of people go up there for skiing. It's a quintessential little mountain town. They've got some really good restaurants and bars. It's a neat downtown area. There's a lot of really cool shops and stuff that
lots of things to just walk around. People are nice. And everything is on Main Street. It's one of those kind of towns where you'll meet a ton of dogs.
Oh yeah.
The most dogs I've ever met on a main street in any town in my whole life.
Go to Colorado. They'll have it beat. But
Red
Lodge does have a lot of.
It's so much fun for dog lovers.
Yeah. It's just a fun place.
It takes us forever to get anywhere because we're petting all the dogs.
Yeah. It's just a fun place. It really is. So, but that's where Deborah was from. And Deborah was described as 5'4" and 115 pounds. She had brown hair, brown eyes, and she had a small round growth on her left ear that was about the size of a pencil eraser. And she had a full set of dentures, which I found interesting for a 15-year-old. So I don't know if she had some kind of a health problem or something like that required her to have dentures at that young age.
I had a family whose were only born with their baby teeth. So that
Oh, really?
same thing. Yeah.
It could, I'm sure it was probably some kind of a health issue. I mean, there was absolutely no indication that she, came from like a bad family or anything. I don't think that was the case at all. I think she came from a loving family. They were on a family vacation, not something that like
she was running away.
Deadbeat parents or something typically take their kids on like extended vacation. So I think she come from a very wonderful, loving family, and it was probably some sort of a health issue like that, like you said, or whatever. I know some people just have bad teeth from like
life.
Yeah, from life.
There's dealt bad teeth.
Yeah, and that was probably the case. With
I might be a little salty. I think I'm one of those people.
And so her dad, Donald, ended up dying in 2011, and her mom, Diane, then passed in 2018. So these poor people lived with this for a freaking long time. And she has at least one sibling alive still, and her extended family are still active in case advocacy. And like I said, they were visiting relatives in Rawlins in the summer of '74. So it was just probably was a family summer trip. It was August, so she was out of school, and they headed down to visit some family in Rawlins. And that was something that, I'm not saying people don't visit their families now, because they definitely do, but back then, that would have been the big trip, because it wasn't as easy to travel in '74 as it is now. Things weren't as accessible. So you might make one big trip in a year, and a lot of the time that was to go visit your extended family who, lived a few hundred miles away. And so it was a different time as far as travel goes. Travel just wasn't as easy back then as it is now.
Right.
And so we don't know a lot about Deborah, but she was likely enrolled in Red Lodge High School. There's no other really place I can think of that she would have been enrolled.
Been too far to go to Billings.
Oh yeah, it definitely would have been too far.
Nowadays it's not, but that back then they wouldn't have.
Back then, but Red Lodge has a pretty good sized high school now, and in '74 they probably did. I'm sure she went to Red Lodge High School, but I couldn't find anything as far as that goes. But she would have been either a freshman or a sophomore, I'm guessing, based off her age at 15 in '74. So right around there, she would have been probably just starting high school, or been, in her second year, sophomore year. We don't know anything about like employment or anything. Likely nothing, or she worked at an ice cream shop or something up there. She was described as a well-behaved young lady, just nothing. She wasn't a troublemaker, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so on August 4th, 1974, in the evening hours, or possibly the late afternoon, she decided to go to the movie. And so it was either a matinee show, like I said, in the afternoon, or it was a early evening show. And she just walked down to the movie theater, which was an extremely common thing for a teenager to do in '74. And I mean, I would have absolutely no second thought whatsoever about letting my 15-year-old daughter walk to the movie theater in Rawlins, Wyoming. Now.
Yeah.
And probably even less concern in 1974.
Yeah.
So, this was just a very normal thing. And she left the house and nobody ever saw her again. So we don't really know. She didn't come home after the movie, and then I'm sure family freaked the hell out.
Yeah.
And probably raised the alarm immediately, but she was gone. And we're talking right downtown Rawlins, Wyoming, and no.
But did she make it to the theater? Do we know that?
There's no indication that she made it to the theater. There's no indication one way or another.
Okay.
But I don't know that there would be, You know, I mean, even now, I don't know if there would be, but man, when I used to go to the theater as a kid, you walked up, you paid cash, they handed you a ticket, they ripped it in half. The ticket had no ties to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless somebody would have seen her and said, oh yeah, she was here, I don't know that you would know one way or another. And the bad thing about a movie theater is the only time they're going to see her is when she's walking in, because then the lights are down and you can't really tell who's in there. So, but I couldn't find anything to answer your question. I couldn't find anything reported on whether she made it to the theater or not.
Okay.
So we don't know if she was taken on her way to the theater or on her way home, but we do know that she disappeared and that's it. So she's just like Carlene. We've never found her body. She's been missing ever since. And this is, again, I just can't stress this enough, exactly 1 month after the two previous girls went missing in Rawlins, Wyoming, where missing people are not a common occurrence. And now we've got 3 in a month. So the town has got to be absolutely petrified at this case. So we do know that we have some dental records available. And I gotta say that I think that her having a full set of dentures at 15 might make identification a little easier, because she would have had relatively
somebody would know
neat and probably, fairly extensive dental work to compare to. So I would think that her identification we could make relatively easy, but we have found nothing. I couldn't find anything as far as DNA being on file. I'm guessing probably since her parents lived, her mother was alive until 2018, well beyond the discovery of DNA, and she does still have extended family that's involved. So I gotta believe that there's DNA, at least if necessary. We could probably get at least familial DNA to compare.
Right.
But a lot of the times on NamUs, it'll say whether there's DNA on file or not. And in her case, it does not say. It says dental records are available. It doesn't say anything about the DNA. So obviously, we're going to presume homicide in her case. And obviously, we now have a serial killer in my mind, and I've got to believe in everybody's mind. We have a serial killer that's working in Rawlins in the summer of 1974. I think there's little doubt about that. But the lack of a body, the lack of any remains has made it extraordinarily difficult, which it does. It makes it very, very hard. So this is, like I said, now the third disappearance in 1 month. Again, the Carbon County Sheriff's Office is going to be the lead investigators on this case. I'm assuming that's all the information I could find. There's also the possibility of Rawlins Police Department being involved, because I mean, probably there's a possibility of them being involved in both cases, because the Fairgrounds in Rawlins is in town. And obviously the movie theater's in town. So maybe the police department was involved with the discovery of the body clear out in Sinclair. I'm sure that, that's definitely outside the police department's jurisdiction. And at this point, I found it very difficult to find, as sad as this is, and it's sad, I found it very difficult to find if anybody's even looking at these cases, like where these cases lay. I don't know if they're with DCI, which is the Department of Criminal Investigation in Wyoming, or if they're with the Sheriff's Department down there. I don't think anybody's working them. I think they're just sitting in a freaking closet, which we know that that's what happens, right? But we're not done, unfortunately, because this one's tough. But so August 23rd now of 1974. So we're talking
Couple weeks.
and this one is a little girl by the name of Jaylene Dawn Banker, and she's 10. And so I saw her reported as 5 foot tall. I think that's absolute bullshit. I just don't think there's any possible way this little bitty 10-year-old girl was 5 foot tall.
Maybe they meant to say 50 inches instead of
Probably
5 foot.
Yeah, there's just no way. I mean, if she's not, there's a picture of her. She's not a big girl. She's a little bitty thing.
Yeah, there's no way.
She's a little bitty 10-year-old girl. It's reported 75 to 85 pounds. I'd say soaking ass wet on a good day.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
with rocks in her pocket.
Yeah, she's a little bitty thing. Brown hair, brown eyes, and she's white or Caucasian. And dental records, fingerprints, DNA. I couldn't find anything, whether it's available or not. At 10, there's a very good chance that there's no dental records available for this little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Especially 10 in 1974. But, you know, I mean, at 10 years old, you don't even have all your adult teeth in necessarily. I mean,
yeah, no.
You know, so, I don't know, you know, I mean, a lot of people aren't taking their 10-year-olds. Even now, a lot of 10-year-olds haven't seen a dentist. Some parents will take them in and get their teeth cleaned and stuff, but others wait till like the teenage years and stuff to start that. So in 1974, who knows if she'd even seen a dentist yet. And I mean, that's not a bash against her parents. That was very common.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't find much about her, like her parents or her siblings, or I really had a hard time finding much of anything about her. I do know that she was a resident of Rawlins at the time, so she lived there. So we now have 2 girls that lived in Rawlins and 2 girls that were there traveling. And she went to the fair with a group of kids, a group of people. I shouldn't say group of kids. I don't know who all was involved. I imagine that there were probably a few kids. It didn't sound like she was there with her family. It was a group of youngsters. It's possible. I mean,
like maybe a 4-H situation or something like that.
Exactly where I was going. I mean, when I was 10, and even probably before I was 10, but when fair hit, I was in 4-H, and then later I was in FFA. And when fair hit, my ass was at the fair before the fair started, getting all my animals into place and all that kind of stuff. And then through fair, your ass is at fair. Yeah. I stayed in
or sleeping. Yeah.
But I stayed in a tent on the fairgrounds. A lot of people, if they have like a camper or something like that, they'll sleep in the camper, or you set up tents, or, you know, if you're a resident of Rawlins, for instance, and it's a Carbon County fair, then you're probably gonna, you know, just go home and sleep or whatever. So she probably wasn't staying overnight at the fairgrounds. And I don't know, because I didn't see, but I think going with a group, there's a very good possibility that she was like a little 4-H girl, and she had maybe bunnies or something like that.
Brownies, or Girl Scouts, something like that.
Yeah. And so, you know, she was possibly participating in the fair.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, again, when I was 10 and at the fair and in 4-H and stuff, I mean, I'd go all day without seeing my parents, because you're doing all the fair stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and even at 10, I would probably check in with my folks or whatever, but I wasn't like beside them holding their hand all day by the time I was 10, you know, at the fair. Yeah. And back then, now, would I do that with my kids now? Hell no. At 10? No. But back then it was different. You really didn't even think about it. I mean, I'm sure my parents, you know, thought about it, but it was a different day.
Well, in that community too, there's a reason it's... Why are my words? There's a reason that saying "it takes a village" happened, is because back then your neighbors looked out for you too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the whole community in a town that small
things
knew who they were.
Yep.
And kept an eye, like you said. So now, not so much. Everybody's looking at screens. Nobody's looking at
exactly
people.
And everybody's afraid to get sued if they intervene with somebody else's kid or something. And I think we've really lost something with all of that nonsense, because back in my day, wow, that made me sound old. But,
get off my lawn.
But back in my day, if you got in trouble and somebody snatched you up and blistered your butt because you did something and then told your dad, he wasn't going to fight them. He was going to blister your butt too.
Again.
You went and got in trouble at the fair.
Yeah.
Whatever.
In front of somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't do it well enough. You got to learn that lesson.
Yep. And so, but we don't know. It's sad as shit. We've got this little 10-year-old girl and we don't know a lot about her.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that she was probably reported missing. So it was either late on August the 23rd or on early August the 24th. But we don't know. And we don't know anything about there was nothing reported as being found at the scene as far as personal belongings or anything like that. And no confirmed sightings after the last time that she was seen at the fairgrounds. And she's obviously the youngest victim by far. And she would have been way more vulnerable than the 19-year-old girls and even the 15-year-old girl,
Yeah. Trustworthy or trusting.
More trusting. Yeah. Yes. And so you've got to believe that by now the town is freaking the hell out.
Installing curfews.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they're patrolling the streets with shotguns every night, at this point. So
neighborhood watch.
And then on April 2nd, 1975, her little body was discovered near a culvert off of Interstate 80, approximately 10 miles west of Sinclair. So, it was skeletal remains, and we don't know exactly how she was identified, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was dental records. Maybe it was, there's just not a lot of missing little girls, This was a tiny little girl. So I don't know. I don't know how she was identified, but, the cause of death is going to sound eerily similar. Head trauma from heavy blows to the skull. So almost identical to Christine Gross's injuries. And again, it just indicates an extremely violent assault. And I don't think we have any more evidence in her case than we have in Christine's case. And she was found very near where Christine's body was found.
Really?
Huh?
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Earlier than Christine.
No, Christine. Oh, she was found before?
Yeah.
Quite a bit before. Yeah, she was found the next year, the next April.
And if it's that close, they missed Christine when they found it. That's just...
Well, if you remember, Christine was 3 miles south of Sinclair.
Oh, okay.
And Jaylene was found, 10 miles west of Sinclair.
Oh, okay.
So close, but not close enough to
My
be
brain heard Sinclair and was just like, we just discussed. It wasn't very big.
Yeah, well, and it is Sinclair. It's not like you're saying a body was found in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not in a way that you would have had to walk by one to find the other one, kind of on different sides of the town. And,
I'm with you now.
And when you get outside of Sinclair, there's nothing. It's just flat sagebrush. So, but, remarkably similar to Christy, but we're dealing with a bit of an unusual predator in this case, because we're talking about a predator that goes from now a 10-year-old girl to 19-year-old young women. That's not real common.
No.
Usually, usually a pedophile has a preferred victim, and that can be like to the point that like prepubescence and postpubescence, like, I mean, we're talking, they're very selective in their chosen victims.
Right.
So it is pretty rare that you come across a predator that has such a wide age range when you're dealing with, how do I say this? It's not that unusual to have a predator that go from 19 to 30. It's a lot more unusual to have a predator that'll go from 10 to 19. And I think that's for obvious reasons. Between 19 and 30, you may or may not have any significant body changes, right? You're pretty much a grown adult by the time you're 18 as far as your body goes, men and women.
Pretty much done, yeah.
And so there's just not a whole lot of changing that happens biologically between, 19 and 30 or whatever. But when you're talking between 10 and 19, it's worlds of difference.
Yeah.
And so it's very unusual that you find a predator that will cross such a wide age range. Now, they're out there, obviously, because I think you would have to be out of your mind at this point to think that you have more than one predator involved in this kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
So that's Rollins, 1974. I mean, like I said, I don't know. Being in the true crime community, being in the true crime business, we have an obligation to tell these stories, and we do, and we will. But when I'm talking about little ones, it's hard for me.
As a dad of having raised little girls.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking 15-year-old, 10-year-old, I mean, I guess their life is no more valuable than the 19-year-olds, and I don't mean to make it sound that way.
No.
But I don't think I'm unusual either in that. And it was the same thing. I mean, same thing on the ambulance. You run calls all day long. None of them bother you. And it doesn't, I mean, the blood, the guts, the gore, all that kind of stuff just kind of rolls off you. And then you go deal with a little one that is not even really injured that bad, and that one's tough for you because it
breaks your heart because they're so little.
Yes, I mean, they're just so vulnerable, and they just can't defend themselves, and they just rely on somebody to be there to help them. And I don't know, it just tears me up to cover these cases. And she deserves to have her story told the same as everybody else. And so it's up to me to just suck it up and get through it. But when you're dealing with little ones, it's a hell of a lot harder. It's a lot harder to research, and it's harder to talk about. It just is.
I can actually see you envisioning your daughters when you're talking about it.
Absolutely. You can't help but do that.
It makes me grateful I had a son.
Yep. Yeah. It's
not that it
easy.
Doesn't happen to.
Of course it does. But the unfortunate fact is, we'll cover guys too, and we have, but there just isn't as many. And the reality of it is women are more vulnerable to this kind of nonsense than guys are.
They're more of a commodity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and they're, sorry if I offend anybody, but they're the weaker sex, so they're more vulnerable. Like everybody that we talked about so far, and everybody we will talk about tonight, frankly, and everybody that we talk about on almost every episode is a small girl. I'm 6 foot tall, 240 some pounds. We're talking about girls that are like 5 foot tall and 100 pounds. Even like Brianna Maitland, who we covered on our Dark Dialogue episode, she was in jujitsu and all that kind of stuff, and women can learn to defend themselves and everything. But when you've got 100 or 150 pound weight difference,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not a lot you can do. That is a reality,
Yeah.
And so it's sad, but we do talk about young women a lot more. But
Yeah.
one bit of relief is we are getting the hell out of Rollins, and thank God for that.
Mhm.
And not because I don't care so much for Rollins, but because that poor town, I don't know how they could take any more than this. So we have got 4 girls in a month and a half, roughly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that. We're talking about a town that's roughly the size of our town here. Could you imagine the disappearance and murder of 4 girls in a month and a half here?
Our town would shut down.
We would lose our freaking minds. I mean, 2. And they were probably the same way. I don't think Rollins did anything wrong. I don't think that the sheriff's department did anything wrong. I think that there was a freaking monster loose, and unfortunately the sorry sack of shit wouldn't be caught for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a pretty good idea of who the bastard was, so we'll be talking about that. But for right now, why don't you tell us where we're headed next?
Okay. So now we are jumping over to Casper, Wyoming. And apart from being the town that I associate with having way too many loaf and jug stores, Casper is the second most populous city in Wyoming after Cheyenne. It was established east of the former site of Fort Casper. Not sure why it was spelled differently, but it was. Do you know why?
I don't think it is.
Well, in the stuff I was looking up, Fort Casper is Caspar.
Really?
Casper is Casper.
That's something I'm going to have to look into, because I always assumed that they were spelled the same.
Tripped a thing in you there. So that area attracted European settlers during the mid-19th century mass migration of land seekers along the Oregon, California, and Mormon trails, where several nearby ferries offered passage across the North Platte River in the 1840s. In 1859, Louis Guinard built a bridge and trading post near the original ferry locations, allowing overland travel to continue through the area. After the discovery of crude oil that John kind of touched on earlier in the region in the 1890s, Casper became the regional petroleum industry center, and oil has been predominant ever since. It was first discovered in the Salt Creek oil field in 1889, about 40 miles north of Casper. The first refinery in Casper was built in 1895. Many refineries have operated in or around Casper over the years, earning the town its nickname, the Oil City.
And it still is called.
Still
Matter of
is.
fact, a lot of the research that I did on this case and
Was Oil City
several of
News.
these cases is the Oil City News.
Yeah,
Yep.
Oil City News. So, to live there now, you would not believe this, but a whopping 40 people were reported in 1880 census.
Wow.
30!
It's a bit bigger now.
It's just a tad. And around 1981, when the crimes we're about to discuss take place, they had grown to 51,016 people. The 2025 estimate I saw showed that it had increased by about 8,000 people from that number.
Yeah, I mean, I think Casper's still growing at a pretty healthy
As
pace.
we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has changed. I lived in Casper that would have been the late 90s, and it's a completely different city.
Yeah. How many loaf and jugs were there?
I don't think loaf and jug existed back then, honestly.
Freaking don't like that store. It doesn't make, it's not even its fault. Anyway.
Hold on a second. Didn't Maverick buy Loaf and Jug?
I don't know.
They bought one of those major places like that.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, noteworthy residents of Casper are Senator John Barrasso, author C.J. Box, and last but not least, that in my list, former U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney, which is going to ruffle some feathers that I said that out loud. But anyway.
It's least in my book.
Yeah.
The only one of those that I could give two shits about is C.J. Box. I like him. He's a good damn author, but the rest of them can go to hell, in my opinion.
I could possibly get you a signed book from him.
That'd be cool, because he writes some damn good books. Yeah. He's a good author. It's kind of funny, totally off subject, but
we do that.
It's kind of funny because you know who Don Day is?
Mm-hmm.
Don Day is kind of like the Wyoming weather guy, for those of you that don't know. And he's been featured in a few CJ Box books, and so he's kind of wondering when he's going to get killed off, or if he is. CJ Box has said that he hasn't quite decided yet if he's going to kill him off or not, because if you end up in a CJ Box book, you never know whether you're going to live or die. So, but I got a kick out of that.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'll see what I can do about that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So the film Hellfighters, starring John Wayne, was partly filmed near Casper in 1968, as well as parts of Starship Troopers in 1997.
Quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
So that was all at Hell's Half Acre, outside of Casper. But have you seen Hellfighters?
No. I actually probably have, because my dad is the biggest John Wayne junkie. I just probably wasn't old enough.
Super different.
To remember it.
Super different John Wayne movie, because he doesn't play a cowboy. He plays a guy that they go around and put out oil rig fires, which is fitting for Casper.
Well, my father worked on oil rigs, so it's possible he didn't want us to see that one so we wouldn't be scared of his job.
That would make sense.
So that might be one I haven't actually seen.
And did you know they're making another Starship Troopers?
I did not.
Like the whole original cast is coming back. And why do I like that movie? Because it sucks.
I don't know.
But I've watched it probably 50 freaking times.
I don't think I've ever watched it.
It's such a terrible, like a B movie type thing.
It's a terrible, amazing movie.
I don't know why I like it, but I do. I like the movie. But it's filmed. I mean, you've seen Hell's Half Acre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where it's all filmed, because it does look like an alien planet.
Yeah.
For those of you that have not seen Hell's Half Acre, it looks like an alien planet.
There is a place like that in Utah, too. Oddly, probably called... No, actually, that's called Devil's Playground.
Okay, same type of thing.
Yeah.
The Badlands are kind of the same kind of topography, but... Yeah. Anyway, sorry to get us off.
No worries. It segues into the fact that we're also leaving Casper and spending a little time in Glen Rock. So
only momentarily, and then we're coming back to Casper.
But we're going to discuss that at the same time. So Glen Rock, located 26 miles east of Casper, the town got its name from a distinctive rock formation overlooking a glen. How fitting.
Right?
Or valley known as the Rock of the Glen. This rock was a prominent landmark for travelers along the Oregon Trail. Glen Rock, known as Deer Creek Station, began as a mail and stage station along the Oregon Trail. The station served as a stopping point along the trail and was a vital supply point for thousands of immigrants as they traveled westward. The name Glen Rock was officially adopted when the town applied for a post office in 1887. 1,003 people were reported to live there in 1920, which reduced for some reason to 810 in 1930. And then around 1981, where the time frame we will be referencing, they reported 2,736 people and an estimated 2,421 Glen Rockers, that is their demonym, reside there today.
Right on.
I dig that they call them Glen Rockers.
I do too. I didn't realize that, actually.
Yes.
I used to fish there all the time because they have Dave Johnson Power Plant, and they have some really large catfish.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched a woman take a 64-pound catfish out of there one day. Yeah, it was bigger than she was.
Well, you've just invited a whole bunch of people to go fishing in Glen Rock. So I do have a sad note for Glen Rock. On September 27th, 1923, soon after the washout of Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad's bridge over Coal Creek, a passenger train fell through the washout, killing 30 of the train's 66 passengers, and this marked the worst railroad accident in Wyoming's history.
Yeah.
Additionally, for our dinosaur enthusiasts, Glen Rock is one of the areas of Wyoming cited as a location where significant dinosaur remains are still being discovered.
Yep.
So there's that. You can go fishing, you can find some dinosaur remains.
And it was also the home of Wild Horse Roberts.
There you go.
Who used to go down and capture wild horses in the Red Desert, and then he'd take them back up to Glen Rock and break them and sell them.
Nice.
Long time ago. So thank you for that bit of information.
You're very welcome.
And you're still not done for the night.
I know. I haven't clocked out yet.
Nope, you cannot clock out yet.
Okay, take us back to the sad.
It's the summer of 1981 in Casper, Wyoming, where the Natrona County Fair lights up the night with a kaleidoscope of colors. A 20-year-old woman, new to this oil boom town of around 51,000, weaves through the central Wyoming fairgrounds, her eyes bright with the promise of new friends. The air hums with the scent of caramel apples and the buzz of strangers swapping stories. A chance for her to plant roots in a strange land. Yet, in the crowd's pulse, a shadow lingers, watching her every step. Tonight, we chase the truth of that fateful night, unearthing secrets buried in the carnival's glow. So, this one is a tough one because we're talking about Melinda May Grantham. She was born around 1961, and I'm just basing that off of her age of 20 in 1981. So that's pretty simple math. But
doing some math there, are you?
You know, the crazy part about it is there's no picture. You kind of get used to that with the Jane Does.
It sucks.
But you don't get used to that when you have a name, when you know who she was, but there's nothing.
Yeah. And it was 1981.
Yeah, this isn't 1921.
Yeah.
This is 1981. And you want to hear her physical description? Height and weight, unknown. Hair and eyes, unknown. Distinguishing marks, unknown. Dental fingerprints, DNA, unavailable in public records. I mean,
how do they even know this person existed to go missing?
There's one little article that I found, and it was about a paragraph, and it just basically said Belinda May Grantham's body was found. Like, I mean,
ouch.
I don't know much about her at all. I really couldn't find any sort of family members or anything like that. I couldn't find anything on her education. I'm guessing she probably would have graduated high school right around 1979. And I just based that off of her age. I know that she came from Washington and had just recently moved to Casper. I don't have a clue what brought her here. But I know that she had arrived not very soon after this. And so, you know, some of this I'm just really making up out of thin air, but I envision a young woman. She's 20 years old, and she just moved to Casper. And so she decided to go to the Natrona County Fair. I'm assuming maybe she had a friend in Casper, or maybe
to meet people.
Maybe she went there specifically to make friends because, you know, it's the Natrona County Fair is a big fair in Wyoming, because it's one of our larger counties. Like you said, it's the second largest city, Casper is.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty good sized fair. I've been to this fair. It's a good fair. It's a good time. And so there would have been a lot of people, and fairs were even bigger in the 70s and 80s than they are now, because there just wasn't a lot going on. And so they lasted longer. Yeah, and this was like the big social event of the summer, is fair, and
it was kind of like the downhill slide of the summer. It was the peak, and then it's like, no, we're going back to school soon.
Yep, it really was. Yep. So we know that she attended the fair, and we know that she was last seen at the fairgrounds, but I really couldn't find like who reported her missing or who. I mean, this one, and I'm not even done yet, but this is one of the really sad ones that I was saying at the beginning. Like at the ones in Rawlins, there was more information available. I know for a fact that we could have done a complete episode on the Rawlins cases for sure.
Yeah.
There is a reason that I didn't, and that'll be made clear here pretty shortly. But there's no possible way that I could have made an episode on Belinda May Grantham. No possible way. The one date that I was able to find is that her body was discovered on August 6th, 1981 in the North Platte River near a bridge in Glen Rock. And so I know exactly where she was found because I've been across that bridge. There's only the one. And so it's you cover all these cases and stuff like that, but then when you're covering cases at home and they're covering cases that are covering areas where
you've stomped repeatedly.
Well, I said I used to fish in Glen Rock all the time.
Yeah.
I probably fished right where her body was found. I don't know exactly where it was found,
right,
but I know I have fished under that bridge. So I probably fished right where her body was found. I had no idea. I had no idea that a body was discovered there until starting to dig into these cases, as a matter of fact. But the body was found in the water. And that's about all we know. I mean, it was discovered relatively soon. So she went missing. She went missing right at the end of July, first part of August, and then.
But we do know she was reported missing.
We know she went missing, I should say.
Okay.
I don't know that she was reported missing.
Because I would think a report of a missing person would have more description than nothing. So
it's very difficult. I tried to find, I tried to dig through old newspapers. I mean, I searched so hard on all of these cases, but especially this one and the last one that we're going to talk about, because at least the Rollins ones I was able to find pictures of and some descriptions about them and stuff like that. But this one, it really rips my heart out because I can find almost nothing about her, almost nothing about her death. I couldn't even find an exact cause of death. I don't know. I know she was murdered. They said that it was homicide, but I don't know how. So I don't know if she was stabbed, which would indicate one particular douchebag, or if she was hit in the head, which would indicate another piece of shit. So, and I have no idea about like if we have any DNA from her. I don't know if we have her dental records. I don't know if we have her fingerprint. I just don't know anything about this poor girl. And I think it's really freaking sad that you can spend 20 years on this earth and disappear. And I realize we found her body, and that's it. Like, I don't know. And I mean, unfortunately, there's just not a lot to say about it, except for the fact that these cases that we've talked about up to this point are remarkably similar. With the exception of Deborah, who was walking to a movie theater, so far everybody has disappeared from a fairgrounds. Carla and Christy were at a rodeo, but it was being held at the fairgrounds. And Jaylene was at the fairgrounds, and now Belinda is at the fair. So I just bring that to your attention because it's going to become important, but I would love to be able to tell you her life story and where she went to school and, tell you that her about her folks and how they searched for her. But I mean, the difference between her and the Jane Does is I know her name, but I know a whole lot more information on the Jane Does.
Yeah.
And how freaking jacked up is that?
Yeah.
And we're talking about Jane Does that were, 6 to 8 years earlier than her, because we were talking about Jane Does in 72 and 74. So they're even older than her case. And I got nothing. And I stinking researched. Like I did everything I possibly could. And there's just nothing. There's just nothing. It's so insane. And NamUs is a wonderful tool, right? But the thing you got to understand about NamUs is NamUs deals with two things. They deal with missing persons and they deal with unidentified persons. If you're a Jane Doe, you get in there because you are a missing person, as long as the department submits. They have to do that part. Mm-hmm. But it's open for you to get in there. And NamUs compiles all the information that they can, and they pull a lot of the information out of the police files that can be made public. I think I've said before that NamUs has a law enforcement side that the public can't access. Mm-hmm. It has a lot more information in it. Right. But on the public-facing side, they're able to share the stuff from the police reports that can be made public. Physical descriptions, if DNA is on file. A lot of times you'll get a case number, and especially you'll get a medical examiner's case number a lot of the time. But we know who she is. She's not unidentified, and she's not missing. We know where she is. We know who she is. Mm-hmm. She doesn't get in NamUs. And so it's almost like she gets cheated a little bit because she was identified. It would almost be, as crazy as it sounds, it would almost be better if she was a Jane Doe, because I think we'd have more information to share.
Yeah.
And isn't that sad?
It feels like it, yeah. Like they would try harder to find more information to share.
Well, I think it boils down to the same shit that we've talked about, and that is that if it's an open case, police just don't share the information. And if it can get in NamUs, if they submit it to NamUs, they got to submit some kind of information in order to get it into NamUs, and so you get something. But with her, we know her name, we know who she is, and we know where she is because she was found dead. So that's all we can find. And I mean, I don't know, short of driving to Casper, and I wasn't able to get up here to the library to get into the magazine or to the newspaper archives. I did do like the online newspaper searches, but I wasn't able to actually get up to the library. Maybe that I could find a newspaper article on her. I don't know. Or drive to Casper and go through their library. Maybe you could probably maybe discover some maybe a couple articles about her. But usually if their picture has been printed in the paper, then you're able to find the picture online.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a picture of her out there. I mean, I'm sure there's a picture of her out there, but to the public, I don't think there is. So it's just extraordinarily sad. now you're kind of starting to understand why I needed to shift gears. And I mean, that's all I know about her. So that's pretty hard to make a episode on when you know her name and that her body was found. That's it. And it's tragic. It's freaking tragic. And she's not the only one out there. There's probably tens or hundreds of thousands out there like that. It's just tragic. Under a Wyoming summer sky, the fairground pulses with life, its neon lights flickering against the dusk. The air hums with the scent of dust and fried dough as families and thrill seekers swarm the midway. Among them, a man moves unnoticed, a drifter, weathered by the road, his cowboy hat tilted low, his eyes sharp and unyielding, scan the crowd, searching for a lone figure straying from the light. He's part of the scene, a carny or a truck driver, yet apart, his smile masking a hunger that thrives in the chaos. Tonight we followed this shadow's trail, unraveling the horrors left in his wake. So now it is time to talk about, one of the most disgusting pieces of shit to ever walk the face of the earth, I would say. And that's a long list, but he's on it.
Oh, joy.
So this douchebag's freaking worthless ass name is Royal Russell Long. And unfortunately, he was born on May 15th, 1935. And he was born in Brazil, Clay County, Indiana, which I never even heard of Brazil, Indiana before, but it's a pretty small little town. He was 5 foot 10 inches tall, creepy looking son of a bitch, 160 to 180 pounds. He had brown hair, and I don't know what color his eyes were. I don't really give a shit. He dressed like freaking rhinestone cowboy piece of shit with I don't know. He's this definitely 70s cowboy attire with the great big feather bullshit on his hat. And as you can tell, the disdain just falls from my mouth as I think about him, because he is such a disgusting piece of shit. I couldn't find out a lot about his life. I mean, it does get a lot harder when you're dealing with somebody that was born in 35. It's a lot harder to find their background information than if you're talking about somebody that was born later. You know what I mean? And there's just not a lot about him. Brazil is a pretty damn small town. It was about 5,000 people in the 1940s or so, and that was from the 1950 census data. It's known for clay and coal industries, and it's just a rural working class type of place. That's likely how he was brought up, and it kind of shaped his transient lifestyle. I don't know if this piece of shit went to school or dropped out or had a brain in his head. I have no clue and could care less. What I do know is he worked as a carny and a truck driver. And so by the early 70s, he was working carnivals and driving truck all over the West, including Wyoming, unfortunately. And you know, that lifestyle, both of those lifestyles, being a carny and being a trucker, provides mobility. You're moving from one town to the next town to the next town. He was in Rawlins in 1974. We know that, but he was, like we said, he was a transient. He was across Colorado, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Missouri. So the son of a bitch is all over the freaking place. He was described as extremely charming and unassuming, with a friendly facade that masked what a worthless piece of shit that he was. And so this guy is This is the carny that everybody warns their kids about. This is the carny that ruins all carnies for everyone forever. You know, this is the son of a bitch right here. Like we said, he traveled from carnival to carnival, and we suspect that he's involved in a lot of crimes. Unfortunately, we don't know that. What we do know is the piece of shit would offer jobs to girls, and then so this is what the son of a bitch would do, is he'd say, hey, I'll give you $1 or so, but I'm talking like 1970s, so it was probably like $1 or something, because that was a pretty good chunk for a little kid to come and help me unload stuffed animals out of the truck, because that on a carnival they got all the shitty ass freaking stuffed toys. And so that's how he would get the kids to trust him, is he'd get them to help him unload his stuffed animals. And his victim profile was primarily young females, but we got to assume they aged at least from age 10 to 20. And it'll make a lot more sense in a minute, but I mean, I'm sure that you and the listeners kind of know where I'm headed with this piece of shit. We know that he sexually assaulted them, physically beat them. He's definitely a suspected murderer and uses blunt force to kill his victims, and then dumps their bodies in remote areas. So I got to tell you about another sick ass freaking sad damn story. So, and I would like somebody to please explain to me how this happens. But in 1985, a 16-year-old girl whose name we don't know because, well, I'll get to that, but we don't know her name, and a 12-year-old girl by the name of Sharon Bald Eagle were hitchhiking from South Dakota and were picked up by this piece of shit in Casper. So for those of you that don't know geography, that's a freaking long damn ways for a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old to be going. What the hell are these? I don't give a shit if it's 1985. I don't give a shit if it's 1925. What the hell is a 12-year-old girl doing hitchhiking across states? Unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of information about why that occurred, but I'm very pissed off about it. So anyway, he picked these two little girls up. Like I said, one was 16, one was 12. And then the 16-year-old, thank God, was able to escape and alert the authorities, and they responded to his place in Evansville, which, for those of you that don't know, Evansville is essentially Casper. It's almost this. I mean, now it is the same city.
It's like Mills. They're just
Mills is on one end and Evansville is on the other end. It's all Casper, but if you're from any kind of a city, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every city has that, where
suburbs.
It starts out as its own little community, and they just kind of grow together until it's just one big place. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the situation with Mills and Evansville and Casper. But so he was living in Evansville. The cops responded, but by the time they got there, Sharon Bald Eagle was gone, and she's never been found. Now, his daughter testified that he molested her, and she's the reason that we know how he lured his victims, because she testified that he would lure girls by, like I said, by offering jobs, unloading stuffed animals, and luring kids with piece of shit junky ass carnival toys. And so because of that, even though they never found Sharon Bald Eagle, so he was not charged with murder. but he was charged and convicted with 2 counts of kidnapping and for indecent liberties with a minor. And Wyoming sentenced him to 2 life terms for that. And then luckily, we got rid of this piece of shit because he died of a heart attack in 1993, which was not a day too soon, in my opinion, because this sick son of a bitch, he got off way too easy, in my opinion. So we know that he would kidnap the girls, he would duct tape them, and then he would, sexually molest them, sexually assault them. He is suspected of multiple murders. So we know for an absolute fact that he kidnapped this 16-year-old and this 12-year-old girl, right? We know that for a fact because he was convicted of it and sentenced to 2 life terms for it. But the rest of it we can't say for sure. But there was a young girl who he's suspected in, and her name is Carolyn Celeste Eaton, and she was found murdered on February 14th of 1982 west of Williams, Arizona, near Interstate 40. And she was a 17-year-old runaway from Missouri who was last seen alive on February 3rd of 82 in Monte Carlo truck stop in Ash Fork, Arizona. And her cause of death was asphyxiation, and her body was dumped 11 miles west of Williams. And she was known as Valentine Sally from 1982 until she was finally identified in 2021 using genetic genealogy. So for all of those years, she was a Jane Doe. And so, but he's a very, very strong suspect in her case. And so, there's a picture out there on the internet that's available. I'll also have it in the video of this, but, you can see that the drawing on the right is the one that was identified as kidnapping this girl, and the piece of shit on the left is the piece of shit we're talking about. So it's a pretty strong, it's pretty likely that they're linked. And then he is suspected in multiple unspecified disappearances and murders of young women and girls in Colorado, Wyoming, Missouri, through the 1970s and 1980s, also Oklahoma. Some specific cases are Victoria Sanchez and Yvonne Mestas, both 15, who disappeared in Colorado on November 1st, 1982, and they were suspected to have been runaways. And he is a suspect in that case because of the dual abduction, which again, we talked about before, but it's extraordinarily rare. And we know that this piece of shit did it because he was convicted of it. So we've got a guy that has no problem abducting 2 girls at one time, which is, again, rare. And so in those cases during this time period and in his path where these girls show up that were both abducted at the same time, he is a suspect. District Attorney Robert Macy from Oklahoma claimed that Long may be responsible for as many as 50 deaths, though no specific cases beyond those that I already listed. But he is by far the strongest suspect, not just in my mind. He is the strongest suspect in the Rollins cases as well, for obvious reasons. Most all of his victims were either hitchhiking or from carnivals and fairs. And so, and he was in Rollins in 74. We know that for a fact. So the chances of there being another serial killer in Rollins, freaking Wyoming in 1974 that would abduct 2 girls at the same time is like slim to none. It was almost certainly this worthless piece of shit. And then, we have Belinda May Grantham up in Casper, and that she also went missing from the fair. But we cannot forget about this other worthless son of a bitch.
Oh, him again.
Because I think that the likelihood that Wyoming had two serial killers working simultaneously is extremely high, almost to the point of being guaranteed. So we've already talked about Russell Royal Long. I don't think that the man was not convicted of more than kidnapping, but Sharon Bald Eagle is not living a happy life out there somewhere. I'm sorry, but she's not. The little girl was killed that night before the cops were able to get there. When he discovered that the 16-year-old had escaped, he took her out and killed her immediately and disposed of the body. I also believe, like I said, that he was almost certainly the perpetrator in the Rollins cases. Now, when we get to Belinda's case, it's a little bit different because all of a sudden now we've got Dale Wayne Eaton, and that son of a bitch is living in Manita at this time. So if you've been listening to this season, then you know he was in Elko, Nevada when those bodies are showing up, and by now he is back in the Casper area. He's in Manita, which is I think 35 miles out of Casper, but Manita is like nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. When you said Sinclair was 450 people, that's like a booming metropolis compared to Manita.
Yeah.
Manita is like 20 or some crazy ass thing. It's tiny. There's really nothing there. So we know for a fact that Dale Wayne Eaton killed Lisa Marie Kimmel, and we've talked about the Elko County cases, which I think he's also involved with, but the reason that I feel like I've got to put him in here is, so we'll be covering Lisa's case. It's going to come down the road here a little bit. We're working our way towards it. So Lisa was killed in 1988, and unfortunately we have more bodies that we've got to discuss before we get to 1988, and we're only into 1981 at this point. But
do you want a little bit on Manita?
Yeah, go for it.
It's actually described as a former village.
Yeah.
In Fremont County, Wyoming. 20.1 miles east-southeast of Shoshone. Is also located close to the geographic center of the state. There is only a single ranching facility in Manita now. The infrastructure, buildings, and homes of the once thriving village have been torn down and land converted to private ranch property. There isn't even census records.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's literally there's nothing there. And so when I say, yes, he lived in Manita, and I say that but because you pretty much have to go to Casper for anything. And, even Shoshone, especially in the late 70s, early 80s, I mean, there was nothing in Shoshone either. So he would have been going to Casper quite a bit. But the reason that I have to put him in on this case is, so I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to take away from Lisa's episode when we get to it, but it's important to note because what do we know about Belinda May Grantham? We know that she was found under a bridge in the Platte River, right? And what we do know for a fact about this piece of shit is after he kept Lisa hostage for 6 days, he drove her into Casper onto the government bridge where he stabbed her beat her and threw her over the bridge. And she was found in the North Platte River in Casper.
Yeah.
And you discussed the locations. We're not very far apart. We're not very far at all from Casper to Glenrock. And so we have a situation where we almost certainly have two serial killers. And this is not my opinion. Multiple law enforcement officers have said that Royal Russell Long is a serial killer. And multiple law enforcement officers have said there's almost no doubt that Del Wayne Eaton is a serial killer. So we had two serial killers active in this area during the same period of time. And now we have an MO overlap.
Yeah.
If I had more information on Melinda May Grantham,
Would help.
if they said, well, Belinda was killed by 2 sharp blows to the head, well, shit, we've heard that before. Or was she stabbed? Or was she shot? Or we don't know. So it's really hard. But I think either one of these worthless pieces of shit are very viable candidates for her murder. Could it have been somebody else? Yeah, sure. Who knows? But I do think that it's very likely that it was one of these two animals. And so it's pretty freaking crazy and creepy and scary to think about. So we have two serial killers working in a state with the lowest population in the United States at the exact same time. I think that it's almost guaranteed. So now we got to talk a little bit about like the investigations into this whole mess of cases that we've kind of been unpacking. And I apologize because I know that it's a lot, but hopefully you and the listeners can understand why they're all together. And we're not quite done yet, but the reason that we're breaking it up in this way will be made obvious here in just a minute. So we've got the whole mess of cases in Rawlins in 74 in about a month and a half span. And so any information on those cases can be directed to the Carbon County Sheriff at 307-324-2776 or to Wyoming DCI, which again is the Department of Criminal Investigation. And that phone number is 307-777-7181. And so those are the investigating agencies in those cases. And again, we've got Christy Ann Gross, body was found, murdered south of Sinclair. Carlene Brown disappeared, no body ever recovered. And then we've got Deborah Ray Mayer, who disappeared August 4th of 74, body never was found. And then we've got Jaylene Don Baker, disappeared August 23rd, 74 again, and her low body was found again down by Sinclair. And so if there's anybody out there that has any information on any of these cases, please reach out to law enforcement. And as we say in every one of these episodes, law enforcement is the place to reach out to. But if you will not reach out to law enforcement, feel free to reach out to Dark Dialogue at info@darkdialogue.com. And we're happy to take those tips. We much prefer you call law enforcement because they can ask the questions they need to ask, but we would rather get the information than not get the information. So
true.
And then we have Belinda May Grantham, who disappeared August of 81. We know that she was found August 6th of 81. The investigating agencies on that is going to be the Neutronic. Again, there's a possibility that the Casper police might have been involved to some extent, but she went missing from the fairgrounds, but her body was found in Glenrock. So it's listed as Natrona County Sheriff as being the investigating agency. So that contact number is 307-235-9282. And again, Wyoming DCI. You can get a hold of Wyoming DCI for any Wyoming cases. and they will either take the information or get you to the right person. And their number again is 307-777-7181. And so we have that entire mess of cases who I think, I don't know, you can give me your opinion. I don't think there's any doubt at all that the Rollins cases are all connected. They're all the same
It feels
perpetrator.
way too, it just feels way too much.
I mean, you're talking about less than 2 months, a month and a half.
Yeah.
And then what are your thoughts on Belinda May Grantham on that one?
I hate that one. Like, I've gotten quiet because it's just started.
It's dark.
Yeah. I wish there was more on her.
Gun to my head. I've got no more information than what I've shared, so
I know.
it's not like I have some magic 8-ball, but
there's no way you're holding back information. I 100%.
Gun to my head, I would have to say I lean towards Delwyn Eaton on her. And the reason I do is because I realized that the girls in Rollins were 19. She was 20. Not a big age gap. Not a big age gap at all, but a big emotional gap. We're talking about a girl that left Washington State and moved to Casper, Wyoming on her own and is living on her own.
We don't know why.
We don't know anything about her, but we know that she's living as an adult. More in the Delwyn Eaton victim category. We have the two 19-year-old girls, but the one still living at home with dad. I realize that doesn't make a lot of difference, but it does emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
You're a different person when you're out on your own and stuff like that. She's relatively close in age, but emotionally, there's at least a possibility. I never knew any of these girls, so I'm just guessing here, but I see it as a difference. I think that Russell Royal Long is the douchebag in Rollins. I'm convinced of it. I'm not alone there. I think law enforcement is 100% convinced of it as well. I think he would have been tried and convicted if we had any evidence, but unfortunately, we only have 2 bodies, and they weren't found for too long after to have any evidence. But I think he's the son of a bitch. With Grantham, it goes kind of both ways, but man, it is eerily similar to the way that Lisa Marie Kemmel was found. Eerily similar. It's a different bridge. Other than that, it's the same. And why not kill Lisa Marie the same way if it worked out so well 7 years beforehand? You know what I'm saying? So we'll probably never know. But if I had to lean one direction or the other, definitely going to be Delwyn Eaton for them and the other piece of shit. And who names their kid Royal? I got a question about his parents too. I'm sorry. I detest this piece of shit. So I don't have a good thing to say about him or anything about him. He's just, and he looks like a creep.
He does. I stared him down a little bit and it was unsettling.
It is unsettling. So, and that, I don't know, that 70s cowboy big feather on the hat look. I just want to punch them people in the face just simply because they're bad style.
Yeah.
Alone. I'm sorry. I hate that look so freaking much. And I don't know. You know how I feel about Delwyn Eaton. I hate that guy. But man alive, when you take little girls, 10, 12 years old, we know for a fact that he killed a 12-year-old girl. I mean, I don't know. And he molested his own daughter.
And she accused him of trafficking.
Oh, well,
his daughter. I was reading in your notes.
Yeah. I mean, he is a sick son of a bitch who's done a lot of damage in his life. And unfortunately, he's going to be popping back up. We're going to have to talk about and learn more about him. But until that time, Angela, where are we going next?
Well, I would like to say to better places.
I would too.
But it's not much better. Native Americans, indigenous animals, mountain men, pioneers, ranchers, railroad people, and miners have all left their footprints and their legacies in Green River.
This is true.
It was from the Green River that John Wesley Powell started his famous explorations, the Green River, the Colorado River, and the Grand Canyon in the late 1800s. Green River City, now Green River, the third place of the same name in Wyoming, was founded with the arrival of the railroad in 1868 when the area was still part of Dakota Territory. The town site was platted by the Union Pacific Railroad in 1867 and incorporated on August 21st, 1868, under the laws of the previous territory of Dakota, since the laws of the Wyoming Territory hadn't been written yet. The town was reincorporated on June 10th, 1891, under the laws of the state of Wyoming.
I ran into that on something else too. Same thing.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like a
territory,
case.
And then it became.
Well, I want to say that it was a complication because somebody committed a crime under the Dakota law and then wasn't tried until it was the Wyoming law.
Oh.
And I think they got off because of that, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, that is sounding familiar.
That struck a chord with me. Yeah.
That is sounding familiar. So, the Green River Basin contains the world's largest known deposit of trona ore, bringing us to something John also already mentioned, soda ash mining. From the trona veins, 900 and 1,600 feet deep, is a major industrial activity in the area and employs over 2,000 people.
Yeah, my brother-in-law worked in those he just retired, but he worked in those trona mines for years. And there were times when he was working shifts, he'd never see the sun.
Yeah.
Because he'd go down in that damn hole in the ground and it was still dark outside. And he'd come out of that damn hole in the ground
and it was dark outside.
Yeah, I couldn't freaking do it, man.
No.
He worked like a mile underground or some insane shit like that.
Ugh.
Not me. I mean, he offered me a job. I couldn't even tell you how many times, because if you're an electrician and you want work, Wyoming's the place to come.
Mm-hmm.
But not me.
Unless you're a serial killer electrician.
Keep your ass out.
We don't want you.
But I don't care how much they pay me. I couldn't work in a hole in the ground.
Mm-mm. So this mining operation is less expensive for production of soda ash in the United States than the synthetic solvay process, which is predominant in the rest of the world. The trona in Sweetwater County was created by an ancient body of water known as Lake Goseut. Goseut? I guess Goseut. I don't know.
Yeah.
This brings us to our final census comparison. I would pause for a moment of sadness, but I think we have sufficiently met my quota for this episode.
I think probably so.
Yeah.
Kind of giving you a workout tonight.
So it begins with 106 people reported for the year in 1870, growing to 12,807 people reported at the time of this particular crime, and 11,825 residents during the 2020 report. And with that, my census is over.
That's it, huh? I do got to say, so Green River was a huge hub for the mountain men, and which you kind of talked about that. But the Green River rendezvous, that's where the mountain men would take all of their pelts and everything and trade, and they still have them. They still go on every year down there. And then another fun fact, which I kind of expected you to pick up, but since you didn't, I have to share it.
Okay.
And that is the Green River Ordinance, which if your city has a sign that says Green River Ordinance in effect, it is from Green River, Wyoming. And I've seen those signs all over the United States, which basically means it's something like you cannot solicit door to door. Green River was the first state.
No soliciting is from Green River?
Yeah. Green River was the first state in the nation that said, we don't want that shit. And they passed an ordinance that said you are not allowed to solicit door to door. And so You'll
see that even in looking.
You will see signs all over the United States that when you pull in, it'll say Green River Ordinance in effect. And
That's pretty cool.
That is the home of it, is Green River, Wyoming.
I dig that.
So, but thank you for that last location information. I asked a lot from you. I know. I kind of dumped it on you last minute.
You'll get my bill.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I'll put it with the rest of them. Okay, so
File 13, is that where it is?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
So we got to talk about Nancy Ann Sellers. So I put her after we've already talked about Delwayne Eaton and Piece of Shit Long for a very specific reason, because she's not one of their victims. But I put her in here because she's listed in several different places as a Great Basin serial killer victim. I don't think she is. But when I started to research her, she is the next one. She was supposed to be the next one.
Okay.
All the rest of those, Belinda was supposed to come after her, and all the rest of those weren't supposed to be included in this season.
Until you stumbled across them.
I think for obvious reasons, I hope for obvious reasons, I included them. But she is the one where I started digging in, and I couldn't find enough information for an episode on her. And so she is really the genesis for this episode, because she needed her own episode. I couldn't give her one. And then I stumbled across those others, and I even mentioned it to you. I was like, now what the hell am I going to do? I've just come across a whole nother cluster of dead girls that fit this profile, that fit this season. And so, again, that's why we're here. So what I do know about Nancy Ann Sellers is that she was born around 1957 in Missouri, and I'm assuming it was likely Boone County, Missouri. And I only say that because I know that that's where her dad was born. So I know that she was born in Missouri. I know her dad was born in Boone County.
Highly probable.
Assuming that she was probably Boone County, and that the family moved to Sweetwater County, Wyoming in the late 1970s. So, she was a pretty girl. She was 5'1" tall, 110 pounds. I mean, remarkably similar descriptions to everybody tonight, but brown hair, brown eyes. She was Caucasian, no distinguishing marks that I know. Her dental records are not available. Fingerprints are not available. DNA is not available. So we have pretty much nothing on this poor girl. Her birth name was Nancy Ann Tremaine. We do know that. Her parents were Herbert Laverne Tremaine. He was born in 1924. He died in October of 81. So he died just months after she disappeared. And it really makes you wonder.
Was a broken heart?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you see that a lot. So, especially with somebody older, just couldn't deal with losing their daughter. But mother was Ella Alina Freeman Tremaine, who was born in 1930, and she lived until 2006, and she died in Ellington, Missouri. So we know that Nancy had at least one sibling who is still alive, possibly others. So there is at least the potential for some familial DNA. And she did have children, which is huge when it comes to DNA. So I couldn't find exactly, it's difficult when you're talking about like somebody's love life. Because a lot of those details aren't public.
Right.
But we do know that she was a young woman. And so she was only 24 at the time of her disappearance, but she was on her second marriage. So she was married, divorced, and then she married a guy by the name of Clayton Sellers, and they were estranged at the time of her disappearance and living separately in Green River. Clayton Sellers and his mother, Anita, were Green River residents. They met, or he met Nancy in Green River, and they courted, did their whole thing, whatever, got married in Green River. I couldn't find much about him either, except I know that I think 7 years after her disappearance, he remarried. Is all I really know is that on May 20th, 1981, she disappeared. I don't know what time of day. I don't know any of the specifics about it. I just know her husband reported her missing. That's pretty much all I know. They were, like I said, they were living estranged. It was reported somewhere that it was very strange, because it was reported that remains found near the Wyoming-Utah border were discussed with her mother. And that was it. But her NamUs profile is still up, so I can almost say with 100% certainty that those remains were not her. I don't know why it said that. I don't know. I found that like 3 different locations, but I mean, I don't think that it's relevant at all, because NamUs is like on it. Mm-hmm. If somebody's identified, their profile comes down, period. So you know, if there's a profile and it's gone, that person has been identified or found. That's all there is to it. So her mom's been dead since 2006, so it wasn't like this happened last month.
Yeah.
So I think that it was just what happens in missing persons cases. They find remains, they had a discussion, maybe they asked for dental records or something like that, and they said, okay, this isn't her, because it couldn't have been.
Identifying breaks as a child.
Right. Whatever identifying information they could get. And then they, I'm sure, compared it and said, okay, it's not her. Because if it was, her NamUs profile wouldn't. That is very reliable.
Right.
So I wanted to mention it because it's mentioned in multiple sources, and it mentioned in such a weird way like that almost makes you say she was identified, because it, like I said, it says remains found near the Wyoming-Utah border were discussed with her mother. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But
yeah.
I don't think there's any possible way, but I do think that it's really important. And my suspicions, and again, my suspicions are with an estranged husband. I don't know the first thing about this guy. Nothing. I couldn't find shit about him other than he grew up in Green River. But I do know that the likelihood, if a woman or man, if a person is murdered or missing, the likelihood that it is somebody that you know is like through the freaking roof. And if it's a situation where there's a divorce, if there's like custody issues and stuff like that, that freaking percentage goes way up fast. So we know that she had an estranged husband. To me, I don't think that she fits the profile of like any of the rest that we've talked about this season. I included her for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, she is included in several of the Great Basin serial killer lists, so she deserves to, be addressed in this episode or in this season because of that. But then when I got to looking into her story and finding that I can't find shit about her. I mean, more than Belinda May Grantham for sure, but almost nothing. You're never going to hear a podcast about her. You're never going to. I just felt like it was important to tell her story. I don't think that she fits at all with Russell or Royal Russell Long. I don't think she really fits with Delwayne Eaton. I think that the likelihood that her husband did something is probably pretty good. And I think that she is very likely somewhere very close to Green River. But other than that, I really don't have a ton of information about her. The investigating agency is the Sweetwater County Sheriff, and their contact information is 307-362-7311. And again, Wyoming DCI 307-777-7181. So before we jump into the victim tribute, do you have any thoughts or questions or comments? Or
Not a whole lot.
It's a heavy one.
It is.
It's a heavy one. It's a sad one. I don't know. I don't think I'm alone in this. I think that every podcaster would agree with this. And that is, when you start talking about cases close to home, you're talking about cases on the ground that you have stood on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I lived in Casper. I used to fish Glen Rock. I've been to the Natrona County Fair more than multiple times. I know the Rawlins and the Sinclair areas well. It just really hits home. And
more time than I care to in Green River, but
I haven't spent much time in Green River.
It's on the way to Utah.
The funny part about being a Wyomingite, which is what you call that word?
Demonym.
That one is, and I think that you'll probably agree with me here, is if it happens in Wyoming, it happened next door to you. Because
that's my neighborhood. It's my backyard.
It's so true. And I don't mean that every state isn't kind of like that, but it is a lot different when you only have 500 and some thousand people in the whole state. And so it instead of 500,000 people in a neighborhood, which, I mean, when you're talking about cities, that's not an exaggeration. And so everything does, like if it happened in Wyoming,
it feels like
it might as well happened in the same town as you, because, and it's a little bit weird, but I think that, I think probably anybody from any state or any area that has a low population probably feels the same way, because it's different.
Well, even the one that came from Red Lodge to Rawlins, that's through us.
Right.
Unless they went an incredibly long way around.
Yeah, they probably drove right through.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they probably made a family trip and went down through Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean?
Which is our backyard.
Yeah.
And it makes her family too.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. I don't know.
It is. It's weird. It's tough. This one was hard on me, and I said it earlier, but it was hard on me to research this. It was hard on me to write it because the young victims that are involved. I mean, we're talking about, thank God, the little 16-year-old. I don't know anything about her, and I shouldn't. She lived. Let's keep her information private. We don't need to talk about her.
Yeah.
But
except for kudos.
Doesn't mean that it didn't touch my heart to think that this brave little girl did everything she could to save her friend or her, I don't know, sibling or cousin. I don't know if they were related. I don't know. But to save her little partner's life, she did everything she could. How brave it was for her to escape and run and try to do everything she possibly could and get help there. And how hard it must have been on that poor little girl that
I still haven't found.
Again, I have serious questions about what exactly a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old were doing hitchhiking. I mean, we're not talking about hitchhiking to the movies. We're talking about hitchhiking halfway across the state of Wyoming. They left freaking South Dakota.
Yeah.
And they were hitchhiking in Casper. So I have serious questions about that, but I also know that a 16-year-old in that situation would feel responsible for that little 12-year-old and how difficult that must have been on her to deal with that. And I hope that she was able to get some help and get past that. And
I do too.
I hope she lived a long and happy life. And and then that poor little 12-year-old girl, I think we know exactly what happened to her and everything she went through. And then you've got almost an an identical situation. In Rollins, you got a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. I know they weren't together, but still, I don't know. And those, I dig into nasty shit all day, every day. But like I said before, when you start talking about little ones, it's a different beast altogether. And it's almost one of those things where you have to do something awful. So it's like, okay, just tear the Band-Aid off and just get it the hell over with. And when we're talking about like little kids, that's how it is for me. Like intellectually, I can say they deserve to have their story told too. They're not any less important than a 22-year-old or whatever. So we owe it to them to tell their story, but it's not easy to research and to read the terrible things that happened to them and to think about how scared they must have been and just how terrible that is. And I don't know. We talk about a lot of sick son of a bitches on this show, but a sick son of a bitch that hurts little ones and their own little ones, I don't know. There is a special place in hell for a piece of shit like that, and I hope he is burning there. And that's probably not very Christian of me, but I'm okay with that because
I'd be willing to bet 90% of the listeners right now are agreeing with you.
Yeah, I think so too. I think as a society, we say that is just...
Well, there's a reason why even hardened murderers in jail don't put up with pedophiles.
Yep. And I think that it's like I said earlier in the show, I don't want to just rehash everything, but it's like I said, I think that it's just because they're so vulnerable and just so helpless. Like I don't know, it's just sick. But anyway, this was a heavy episode. So
that's what.
Tonight we pause to hold space for 6 women and girls whose lives were taken way too soon. Their lights stolen from the wide Wyoming skies. They were daughters, sisters, a mother, friends, each a unique soul with dreams that danced in their hearts. Their absence ripples through families and communities, and a wound that never fully heals, especially for those who lost their little girls, whose futures were just beginning. In Dark Dialogue, Rocky Mountain Reckoning, we speak their names to keep their stories alive, to honor who they were, and to stand with those they left behind. Christine Ann Gross, just 19, carried the warmth of Bowdle, South Dakota in her heart. She was a free spirit, drawn to Rollins for a summer adventure with her best friend, her laughter a melody in the July heat. Kristen dreamed of new horizons, her dark hair catching the rodeo's glow as she embraced life's simple joys. Her family, parents, perhaps siblings, still carry the ache of her absence, the memories of her vibrant smile, now a bittersweet treasure. Carlene Brown, also 19, was Rollins' own, a hometown girl with reddish hair and freckles that mirrored her fiery spirit. A graduate of Rollins High School, she ran track, joined clubs, and worked diligently at model cleaners, weaving herself into the fabric of her small town. Adopted, she found love in her family, her father and brother by her side, her mother in Colorado. Carlene's dreams were just taking shape, and her family's grief endures, a void where laughter once rang. Deborah Ray Mayer, only 15, brought the spirit of Red Lodge, Montana to Rollins for a summer with relatives. She was kind, well-behaved, a girl who loved her family fiercely and dreamed of simple moments, like a night at the movies. Her parents, Donald and Diane, and her siblings held her close. Their hearts shattered when she vanished. The loss of a girl so young, her life barely unfolding, cuts deeply, leaving a family forever changed, clinging to memories of her gentle presence. Jaylene Dawn Banker, just 10, was the youngest, a Rollins girl whose bright eyes and tall frame stood out in a crowd. She was a child of endless possibility, running through the fairgrounds with friends, her laughter echoing in the summer air. Her parents, her world, faced an unimaginable pain, losing a daughter whose childhood was stolen before it could bloom. The weight of that loss, for a girl so full of life, lingers in Rollins, a wound that time cannot heal. Belinda Mae Grantham, 20, was a newcomer to Casper, her adventurous heart seeking a fresh start in a bustling oil town. She stepped into the Natrona County Fair with hope, eager to find friends and build a new life. Her courage to embrace the unknown defined her, and her family, somewhere, perhaps still searching, holds on to the memory of a young woman who dared to chase a new beginning, only to have it taken away. Nancy Ann Sellers, 24, was a mother with a gentle soul, her smiling face a gift to Green River. Born in Missouri's Boone County, she moved to Wyoming with her parents, Hubert and Ella, and siblings, bound by love that shone through her kind ways. As a mother, her children were her heart, and her estrangement from her husband Clayton couldn't dim her warmth. Her family, parents now gone, siblings and children still grieving, carry the weight of her loss, a mother whose love endures in their hearts. These women and girls, Christine, Carlene, Deborah, Jaylene, Belinda, Nancy, were more than moments lost to tragedy. They were dreams, laughter, and love, woven into the lives of those who cherished them. For the families of Deborah and Jaylene, the pain of losing children so young is a different kind of sorrow, a theft of innocence and potential that echoes forever. We honor their lives, their spirits, and the families who hold their memories close, vowing to keep their stories alive until justice brings them peace. As the dust settles on the fairgrounds of Wyoming's past, the stories of Christine Gross, Carlene Brown, Deborah Mayer, Jaylene Banker, Belinda Grantham, and Nancy Sellers call us to action. These women and girls deserve justice, and their families deserve answers. In Dark Dialogue Rocky Mountain Reckoning, we're more than a podcast. We're a community fighting for truth. Angela, how can our listeners join this fight?
First, your support keeps us digging deeper. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Dark Dialogue for exclusive content and updates. Prefer a one-time gift? dradlikecoffee.com/Dark Dialogue to fuel our work. For in-depth stories and case files, subscribe to our Substack at darkdialogue.substack.com. Every bit helps us shine a light on these forgotten cases.
We also need your voice. Almost all of these victims will be open for adoption in our Adopt a Victim program, and that'll let you champion their case, keeping it alive through research or advocacy, or join the Dark Dialogue Collective to put boots on the ground in other cases. Stop families from feeling this pain. Feel free to reach out to us at info@darkdialogue with your kudos, your critiques, or case suggestions. We're listening, and every idea matters, and it helps so much.
Most importantly, if you know something about Christine, Carlene, Deborah, Jaylene, Belinda, or Nancy, please come forward. Contact the Carbon County Sheriff, at 307-324-2776 for Rollins cases, Natrona County Sheriff at 307-235-9282 for Belinda, or Sweetwater County Sheriff at 307-922-5300 for Nancy. You can also reach the Wyoming DCI at 307-777-7181. Again, if you're not comfortable with authorities, please email us at info@darkdialogue.com and we'll help get your tip to the right place. Anonymity is always an option.
These families have waited decades for closure. A single detail, your detail, could break these cases open. If you were at the Carbon County Fair in 1974 and took pictures, submit them. If you were at the Natrona County Fair in 81, same thing, pictures, submit them. It's amazing what people have in their photo albums and they don't even realize they have it. Christine's laughter, Carlene's spirit, Deborah's kindness, Jaylene's innocence, Belinda's courage, Nancy's love for her children, they live on in our pursuit of truth.
Together, we can make a difference. Support us, join us, speak up. Let's honor these women and girls by ensuring their stories are not forgotten.
In the shadow of the Rockies, we chase justice for those who can't and make the guilty face the reckoning.